Damn. Kevin Penkin went ham on episode 6 of Spice and Wolf. My gosh, absolute chef kiss. Thank you so much, Kevin Penkin, for that amazing track that they had that played out during the entire time that Holo is just standing up and protecting her Lawrence. I thought it was fantastic. The vocals and everything was just absolutely beautiful. It definitely gave me a lot of vibes of Made in Abyss, but it nailed it. It was perfect. I could not have asked for a better song right there. And additionally, yes, Passione actually drawing Holo in the wolf form. Let's give it credit where credit's due. I mean, in an age where a lot of companies would rely on CGI, they just drew her. It looked great. It wasn't amazing, but it was enough that it got the point across, her viciousness. Now, there was a side of me that almost thinks that she looks too puppy-like rather than wolf-like, but it was still fantastic. I think this entire segment, they nailed it. It was fantastic. And it is funny because this is one of those kind of issues where at the end of it, because this is obviously seemingly an end of an arc, I don't recall there being anything after this really regarding this. I think this is the wrap-up of this particular trade. And it's funny because in the end of it, you almost have this sense that Medio won. Like, Medio Training actually won the trade. Because in the end, Malone pretty much got swindled by the Royals, which again does hit heavy on that concept of you learn. It's not like Richton's over here going, oh my gosh, darn it. Now, he could have before he went to talk to Lawrence. It had been a day past. He could have, destroyed some furniture, then came in there and said, oh, Kraft, here's what happened. Yeah, great, right? He got it out of his system beforehand. But still, in the end, it's a learning experience. And they still got something out of it. And that's the whole thing there. You learned something, but additionally, you didn't lose money. But Medio, I think, in the end, obviously, they won. Because they didn't have to deal with the Royals and get swindled like, Malone got. Anyways, jumping in the episode proper, let's just get right into it. Yes, opening up with Holo and Lawrence running away. Her using her ears to pretty much sense that people are coming down there. They flee for a little bit. Eventually, at some point, they were trying to claim that Malone sold them out. I really like that because Holo kind of just... I don't think that she really believed it, but she had like that moment of like, oh, looks like he got sold out. Bummer. And then Lawrence is like, wow, they must have paid a lot of money because literally if they capture you, Malone's dead. So they must have paid a lot of money for it. So it's like one of those lies that they were telling at the time to get at Lawrence. But Lawrence is like, no, I'm not stupid. I know that they wouldn't do that because literally Malone's dead. If they sold us out, they're dead. They can't have them capture Holo. So yeah, they run. Eventually, Lawrence gets stabbed. Holo gets a nice little bite in there. Get a Holo bite. But yes, eventually Lawrence passes out. She bandaged him up. They get this one little dead end where she thought that she smelled the light. She smelled the outside. But unfortunately, it was an old well. And that's where they get cornered. And yes, we have the appearance of Yare. Yare finally confronts Lawrence. And again, I really do kind of appreciate that. Yes, there was like this little kind of back and forth with a lot of people as to if Yare had enough driving force in the original novel series. That's, I think, why a lot of people say that they use Chloe instead in the old adaptation. They wanted romance to be a part of it as well. But they did well enough in establishing that, yes, Yare is after something here. This is a massive benefit to their people. Yes, he hates Holo. He hates the gods. And yes, additionally, he does respect what Lawrence has told him. Lawrence has taught him so much about trade. And yes, Lawrence has done so much for their village by buying their goods despite the fact that they were taxed heavily. So Lawrence has always been there for the village. He's always been there for Yare. He has helped him. He's literally, Lawrence is his sensei, and he is his pupil. And so he does have a lot of respect for Lawrence, and additionally, wants to help Lawrence. Like, hey, join us. I want to pay you back. I want you to, you're going to be able to make so much money. We're going to get those tariffs, and we're going to get all that clearance. We're going to get those privileges, and then we're going to make a whole bunch of money, and we're going to sell it to you, and you can make a whole bunch of money. Let's do this together. He wants to bring in his master. And I think that's what that whole extra scene was in the first episode that wasn't in the light novel. It's really kind of showing that bond between the two. And yes, technically hitting heavily on how much he does not like the gods. He hates the idea of Holo and her attitude. And that, again, kind of hits in this whole segment where he's just literally spouting, let's turn her into a church. Let's get rid of her. We can get rid of that day and age. It's like that whole like back and forth where he believes that Holo is even the wise wolf, but yes, obviously accepting that it is her because he wants to get rid of it. There's almost a sense of right here, he's almost believing it's just a girl that's possessed by Holo, but additionally not believing it is Holo herself. And so there is that back and forth that eventually whenever she does actually transform into the wolf, crap, you darn, it's so unfair, you gods. It's so, you're always unfair. But yeah, it was interesting because there's two things happening here. One is where he's literally spitting in Holo's face again because he wants to get rid of her, wants to get rid of that day and age. Holo's behind Lawrence, obviously hurting. Again, this is somebody that I have dedicated my life, a long period of my life, to helping his lands where he grew up in. His hometown would not be there without the effort that I put into it because I made this promise, and here he is spitting in my face. But additionally, yes, Yare trying to get at Lawrence because he legitimately wants to help him. If they came there, if Yare did not come there, they would have killed Lawrence. But now that Yare is there, he's trying to save his life. He's literally saying, join me. This is your last chance. I can't help you after this. And I want to help you because you've done so much for the village and you've done so much for me. And I want to pay that back. But then Lawrence obviously brings up the contract. I made a contract with some strange girl that I have to fulfill. I would not be a merchant if I did not fulfill my contracts, and I have a contract to get her north. So he's just covering up the fact that he doesn't want to leave Holo to die. But yes, protecting her was great though. But yeah, once Yare says take him down, Lawrence tries to raise his dagger. Holo pushes him down and says, "It's gonna hurt for a little bit. I'll handle this." And yes, consumes his blood, transforms into a massive wolf. Looked amazing. Again, kick in that music. That music was amazing. The music was so good. The vocals, I always say, and I'll say it again, the vocals always makes the difference. It just puts so much emotion gets wrapped up in there with the vocals. It was just fantastic. And yeah, her go around beating the crap out of everybody. Eventually fakes out to kill Yare. Curious. Yes, Lawrence did call out to her not to kill Yare, but she was pretty much there already. I actually meant to go check the novels to see if it implied there exactly what her intentions was. Maybe she brings it up in the next part of the story, but I wonder if she was wanting to kill Yare. I don't think that she would because she does know that Lawrence knows Yare. And again, I think that there is a sentimental... I don't think it even has anything to do with the Lawrence. I think Holo herself would not want to kill Yare because Yare is from that village. And again, she made a promise to somebody to take care of that village, and I don't think that she'd want to harm a child of that village, despite the fact that the guy's a jerk and he deserves it. Like, let's be honest, he deserves it. But I don't think that she'd want to. I think even if Lawrence yelled out... Now, there is the question mark of would the feral aspect of her bestial form cause her to do it, despite the fact that in her own right mind she wouldn't want to do it. But I don't think so. I don't think that she'd want to kill Yare. I don't think that she intended to. I think she just wanted to scare the living fire out of him, put the wrath of a god, the wise wolf, into this guy, and be done with it at that point. But yeah, it kind of implies the idea that Lawrence calls out and she doesn't do it. But either way, it was fantastic. Him passing out. And then yes, that follow-up. It hurts. This is kind of something they've kind of hinted at a little bit before, but I think it hurts more now. They've had, obviously, when they first met, Holo transformed part of herself. It made him fearful, but he didn't run, and he stayed with her. And I think that she liked that. Again, there's an undertone here that the only person that has ever not feared and cowered and run away from her form was the one that she made the promise to in the village. And so there's a desire there, I guess, as somebody that wants to connect with Holo, that they have to accept that form and not be fearful of it. And what hurts is now that they've kind of established a relationship over this period of time, both have pretty much sacrificed themselves for the other to protect the other. And here, as she comes back up to him after protecting his life, he's fearful. And it's like, you can't really blame him, because what would you think if you seen some massive wolf running around beating up everybody, nearly killing this one guy, and then comes towards you? I think there's twofold. One is that she's very powerful and she can kill you. It's a wolf, and he has trauma of wolves. Again, he has been chased down by wolves several times, watched people shred alive by wolves. He has a trauma that he can't overcome. And now that she's in front of him here, the other aspect of it is that, is she there? That is a good question. Is this the Holo I know, or has she become a feral wolf? Is she even in there? I think it's probably more the first, is that he just has a trauma of wolves, and he's going to have a fear no matter what. But he does briefly remember, oh, Holo, I think that's what kind of confirms it for me. Again, there's a wolf in front of me. Fear because of my trauma. And then briefly he goes, oh yeah, it's Holo. So that he can kind of calm himself down. And then she goes to leave because she's seemingly disappointed. Grabs the wheats and goes and leaves. But then he has to stop her. Like, okay, I made a mistake. I need to stop her. And his way of stopping her is literally just kind of being tsundere about the whole situation with the clothes. You need to pay me for those clothes. I spent a lot of money. Whatever you've done so far is not enough. I will chase you down to the north to get that money back. Don't leave, basically. I love it. I love it. But anyways, he passes out. We jump to the Malone Trading Company, and that's where Rickton gets him a full breakdown. Holo came by, dropped you off, left. It's been a day. We haven't seen her. And additionally, yes, here's the results of our trade. Now, this is very interesting because in the end, what they got out of it was like, what, 2,000? Like, it was just not much. Not much at all compared to what they did. They got together 307,000 silver coins. They brought it to the royal family. And at that point, yes, they immediately wanted to devalue the coins dramatically. So this is a big benefit to the royal family. We're going to devalue it, and we're going to be able to, keep things afloat. So they offered immediately 350 coins of a different currency. So essentially, yes, Rickton would be, by those base values, making a 43,000 coin benefit. I mean, depending on what the exchange is between those two currencies. That's another factor there. But the worth of there is what I think they said specifically, the worth of 350,000. Either way, what kind of sucks is, yes, in the end, Lawrence only gets 120. And if he's getting 50% of the profits, that means they only made 240. And it sucks because at first it kind of seems like Rickton, or at least the Malone Trading Company, is trying to swindle Lawrence. But no, he's like, here's the numbers. Look at it. Like, he's literally being very clear with him. You are our business partner. We had this whole plan. This is a contract. He has to be shown what the end result was. Here's the receipts. This is what the royal family did. And yes, it kind of comes down to that whole idea of, they wanted to lower the amount of loss they got as much as possible. I mean, it makes sense. Again, you go to the royal family. Again, they've already established this royal family is not doing good. Their finances are not doing good. Are you expecting that you're going to make a massive amount of profit from them? No. No. I think in the end, it just comes down to the privileges. I think they pretty much brought that up in the previous episodes. It's really all about the privileges because they don't have a bunch of money, but they have privileges to give to you. And so in the end, they're going to put all these tariffs and all these delivery fees and all these contract fees in order to reduce that loss. And so in the end of the day, that's it. 120. There you go. So it's interesting because in the end, it's just like usual with this story. These are merchants. And in the end, they're not crying. Yes, it's disappointing. And they have that look of disappointment. But in the end, the main thing here is they learned a lesson. We should have seen this coming. We had an idea that was going to happen. This is what happened. We didn't lose money in the end, so it's fine. But it's very interesting in that regard. But like I said earlier, it's more interesting in the fact that in the end, if you think about it, Medio won. Because Medio got the privileges they wanted. What Yare was screaming about, we had to turn her in, we got to beat the Malone Company because we need to get this tariffs and all these privileges in order to make more money, reduce the taxes and tariffs and all that kind of stuff, and we can make a lot of money. The village is going to grow and everything like that. It's going to be great for everybody. They still got it. Like, it even shows that brief little shot of the chief literally excited. He goes over to Yare and he's like, we did it, boy. They still got what they wanted. And they were able to offload all the coins that they had been gathering. They didn't have this debt they were building up. They were able to pass it off to something, and in the future, they'll make a lot more money. They got what they wanted. In the end, they got what they wanted. But additionally, like I said, if you think about it, because Malone Trading Company basically got swindled in the end, they went to the royal family and they just cut it all. They didn't make, like I said, 43,000 silver coins. They lost it all. They lost all that money. They barely got maybe a 2% of it. I don't know. At the top of my head, it's a very low percentage of what is supposed to be there for profits. It was all put into the contract fees and stuff like that. Medio didn't have to deal with that. In the end, Medio would have not made much money, and they would got their privilege. So in the end result, Medio got exactly what they wanted, and nothing more, just like Malone didn't. So it's very interesting. I've always loved how these characters sort of see the situation as it is, and they learn from it even though it is a negative, they learn from it. Well, next time we'll know. If there's another thing that presents us, hey, there's a royal family that's not doing well, be careful. Be careful how you do the trade, because you're probably going to get swindled in the end. The royal family is going to do what they want to do. But yeah, and obviously, again, with the whole privilege, they made 1,000. So they made them a lot more than even with what they got with the whole situation with the tariffs and everything with the original trade. So cool stuff. And then, yes, of course, letter comes in, and it's a invoice for a lot of stuff. Pretty much everything that he promised that he was going to buy for Holo is in the invoice, so it's immediately picks it up. I don't think the shoes were a part of that, but yeah, he did mention the brush especially. She wanted the brush, and she's up there brushing, and he runs out there, and then everybody's watching as he says, yeah, you still got to pay me back. Yeah, I didn't want you to have to chase me up in the north. We're going to do it, whatever. Move on. It's such a cute little end to it. Because, yeah, the expectation is that Holo, because he was so fearful of her form, would want to leave. But I think it's that whole thing of where I think because he yelled out that she has to pay her debt, there's still that kind of, okay, yeah, he still wants to be around me. He still wants to travel with me. Let's do it kind of thing. It was very, very sweet way to end up the whole thing. So, I forgot when they were being chased and they send the hounds. And she's like, you dimwits. And then she turns around and just barks at them and they all flee. The dogs are literally running past the guys going, get the hell out of my way. Oh yeah, they also dropped the name. They dropped the name Spice and Wolf. So for anybody that was wondering what the Spice and Wolf name is about, yeah, it's that whole story that Rickton tells him, which is, yes, the devil that comes to the merchant, says, bring me the most tasty person you can, otherwise I'm going to eat you. He goes out, brings a manservant and a woman servant. They doesn't like that. Goes out and finds a kid that smells like honey and milk and brings him. And that boy basically says, "You got one right here." He's been covering his soul with abundance of spices. And that's when Lawrence says, "I can't wait for the day that I'll be covered, laden in spices." So it's the idea that yes, Lawrence and his trade and all that kind of stuff eventually. He'll be so bountiful and selling so much that he'll be laden with spices. And so him being with Holo, Spice and Wolf. So they dropped the name. Now it all makes sense, right? It's cool. Yeah, I didn't even mention the fact that, yeah, Rick didn't mention the idea that he seen her form because she heard that she was standing there protecting him. And she's just standing there with the bag in her mouth. It was great. So great. Such a good episode. Great stuff. Great stuff. I'm looking forward to the next arc. I'm kind of misremembering, and I think it involved the shepherd girl, but I might be misremembering that. The only arcs that I remember is the shepherd girl and the stock market thing, which that one is going to be really interesting if they get to it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the episode. Additionally, if you like this content, you want to support channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips, links, so thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate it, but it does. And y'all take care.